or had spent many years traveling the world in search of adventure and found it in very many places. To get to Botswana from Vancouver, we flew eastbound to Frankfurt, then took the long flight south from Frankfurt to Johannesburg, and then a shorter flight from Johannesburg to Mon. Botswana is a landlocked country located in central southern Africa, with Namibia to the west and to the north, South Africa to the south, and Zimbabwe to the east. Extending through 9 degrees of latitude, 2/3 of the country lies within the tropics. The vast Kalahari Sands, the largest continuous stretch of sand in the world, covers 84% of Botswana, and 20% of the country is protected as national parks or wildlife management areas. In the north of the country is this rather unique feature called the Okavango Delta. Now, this is the largest inland delta in the world, and it's fed by water which falls away up in the highlands of Angola and takes 6 months to come down through till it spreads out into a palm-shaped delta, which is a source of great variety of wildlife viewing. Along the northern border of Botswana is this strange geographical feature called the Caprivi Strip, which is a relic from the colonial period when Europeans were drawing the maps of Africa in what was known as the Scramble for Africa. Namibia was controlled by the Germans, while Angola was ruled by the Portuguese, and Zimbabwe, then Rhodesia, was ruled by the British. The Germans wanted access to the waters of the Zambezi River. So this strip of land, known as the Caprivi Strip, was added to the German territory. During the apartheid era in South Africa, the Caprivi Strip was a problem for them. At the time, Cuba was training fighters in Angola for the ANC, and to get them back to South Africa, the fighters found it difficult to travel down through Namibia, which was then controlled by South Africa, and so would instead sneak across the Caprivi Strip and travel freely down through Botswana and get into South Africa that way. I recall when South African Army maintained a strong military presence in the strip. Another interesting feature in this area is this little bit of land here, because this is the shortest international border in the world, a mere 700 meters long between Zambia and Botswana. The Botswana national flag is dominated by tranquil blue to reflect the peaceful, calm nature of the people, with black and white stripes symbolizing racial harmony. The blue represents water and rain, which create prosperity. The black represents the black Botswanan, and the white represents the white Botswanan. So together the flag conveys the ideal of a prosperous, multiracial society living together in harmony. As a little aside, years ago when Moira and I were living in Johannesburg, South Africa, we decided we'd drive back to Europe in this vehicle, but it had South African plates. This is East London, and we would not be able to drive through Africa with South African plates. So we went to Botswana and we assumed residence there, and we got the vehicle registered in Botswana, and we then drove back to Europe. On this occasion we came to Botswana to look after a bush camp. This bush camp had very nice gardens where we could sit out on the veranda and enjoy relaxation. It was all very well landscaped. While we were on the camp, there was this one staff member, a groundsman, named Samuel. Himself and Moira would discuss what they would like to do, and he would carry on and do the work. Samuel maintained the property. He cut the grass and watered the grass and did all the other chores around the facility very efficiently. Samuel's ambition was to train to be a tour guide. One of the fun things we did was hook these two tires to the back of the Land Cruiser and tow them along the trails to grade the trails. This was quite a primitive way to do it, but it was reasonably successful. The camp is entirely off-grid, and electricity is produced by solar panels, and the hot water is produced by these solar geysers. There are 4 guest tents on the site, and they're quite attractive, nicely appointed, with veranda outside, an inside bed with mosquito nets, and furniture, tables and chairs, and in the back, ensuite wash facilities and showers. It was quite pleasant. There were 2 dogs on the property, Donna, who found comfortable places to lie, if somewhat undignified, and Bowie, which here appears to be protecting his bone. We fed the dogs twice a day, 6 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock in the evening. Getting the food from the container, the dogs get very excited, they know when it's food time, and especially Donna usually comes in and checks what's going on and then bring it out, and they're very happy and excited to get their food. Then it was time to take them for their walk. Again, they get very excited as we set off on our walk. As we set off, Maura would give each dog a treat.
Put down easy. Good job. Okay, let's go.
Then it was off out into the bush. Very pleasant walk through bush country. In the mornings, we would sometimes meet the young children heading to the village to their school. We'd also meet other children walking along a path close to the road, very freely and without any restriction. Then we met this fellow with his donkey heading for work. 2 doves enjoying the morning sunshine. And eventually the path would lead us down to the river. This river is one of the outflows from the Okavango Delta and is a beautiful, peaceful place for our morning and evening walks. This watercourse had been dry for a long time and trees had grown, and eventually the water came back and drowned the trees. These trees made an ideal place for birds, and we so much enjoyed spending time there bird watching. There was a great variety of birds to watch. These are pied kingfishers, 3 of them, and here one watches while the dragonflies fly all around. The pied kingfishers chat amongst themselves. Here an African darter surveys the scene, while close by an African eagle also surveys the scene. The African eagle bears a great similarity to the bald eagle in the United States of America. A very elegant and impressive bird. Meanwhile, open-billed storks gather at a special tree and make themselves comfortable and chat amongst themselves, usually in the evening. And an African darter dries his wings in the breeze, while close by, egret does what appears to be a dance as it looks for insects. Sometimes a hippo would appear in the river and would stay underwater for long periods of time and just coming up periodically for breath and to look around. It was an interesting thing to see. On the other side of the river, donkeys appear to complain amongst themselves. Then as the evening progressed, the birds would gather to roost up for the night, and as the sky reddened, and eventually we would observe some beautiful tropical sunset. Always at the end of a walk there was a treat for each of the dogs from Moira.
Come on, Barry. Sit. Easy. Good.
Moira, breakfast's ready. We were in Botswana for Christmas and so decided to have Christmas breakfast out on the veranda. There you are. Good. Beautiful morning.
Yes. Dogs are happy with their bones.
Good. Happy dogs.
That's so nice. Isn't it?
Yeah, outdoors.
Beautiful.
Well, Happy New Year, Moira.
And to you.
Here we go. That's good. Next day, December the 26th, was our wedding anniversary, so we had a little party, just the two of us out in the garden, and we had some wine and some cake, and we drank toasts to all our absent friends and to each other. Moira got very interested in bird photography, so she built herself a hide by a little pond and took some beautiful pictures of the birds. Moira liked these birds. They're called babblers, and they make a lot of noise, and she liked the way they came, and especially the one that dashes in, has a bath and dashes out again. And then a squirrel came to check things out.
Okay.
Another visitor to the garden was this red-billed hornbill, which was always very entertaining to watch his antics. Things weren't always easy for the birds, and this hornbill is being viciously attacked by other birds because it appears that he might have got too close to their nests. The attack was sustained for quite a while. Next thing that caught Moore's attention was these Cape weaver birds that started building a nest close by, so she set up her camera and started taking videos. The birds worked very hard, and it was fascinating to watch as they weaved the grass and little branches that they brought to the nest in to make this beautiful nest. They built the nests on very thin branches, and the slightest breeze or movement would cause it to sway and make it difficult for Moira to maintain her focus. The birds were amazingly agile as they hung on and built. This was another bird starting another nest close by. Here it looks as though we're having a bit of a competition between two birds building their nests very close together. Eventually the nest was finished, and I believe these are male of the species who now wait around to see if a female will come and take up residence. This one waited for quite a while, and we never actually saw if a female took up his offer. Then, much to Moira's dismay, this bird seemed to identify his reflection in our window as an enemy, and he spent many, many hours attacking his reflection. Then into the yard came this rather interesting chameleon. It's called a flat-necked chameleon. It has an extremely strange way of walking. It also has the ability to change its colour to suit its background as a camouflage. Another feature is its ability to move its eyes through 180 degrees independent of each other. It can look forward and backwards at the same time. Here it's moving into the greenery, and as you see it has changed its colour. You see how its eyes bulge out, and one's looking one way, then it's looking another. It's an incredible feature. Here it is in the bush, and it is stalking prey. As you'll see, its eyes are moving around independently, and very shortly its tongue will snap out and catch an insect and bring it back and eat it. There are always lots of dragonflies along the river. This is a banded groundling dragonfly. And this is a droop-winged dragonfly. See the detail in their wings. It's incredible, these very fragile insects. These are more of Moira's pictures, and she was very happy that she was able to get such nice pictures of the dragonflies. This is a video, and you can see the dragonfly moving its head. Every couple of days we would drive into Mon to do some shopping, but also to get Wi-Fi. We didn't have very good Wi-Fi at the camp. Here Samuel sees Moira to the car and sees her off. This is a typical Botswanan safari vehicle. with spare tires on the top and a snorkel to the carburetor. The drive out to the road gives you an idea of how private the butch camp was. Frequently there were people on the side of the road looking for a lift, and we would invariably stop and pick them up. There were a lot of domestic animals along the road, donkeys, cattle and goats, and one had to be careful. Eventually we got to the town, and then it was always amazing how much traffic there was in the streets of the town when there was so little traffic out along the road coming in. Driving is quite amusing with every man for himself, but it's very easy driving because it's kind of bluff. In Mon there are a lot of Herero people, and these are the people who fled from Southwest Africa to escape the Germans in the colonial era. The remarkable traditional dresses that the Herero women wear are the result of a German missionary's zealous wife, Mrs. Alma Hahn, who 150 years ago wanted to eliminate nudity among the Herero women, so taught them to sew. The women copied the Victorian-style dresses of the missionaries' wives wore, making their own adaptations, including bright colours and two-pointed hats, which represent a young cow's horn. Herero women still sew these dresses, using up to 10 metres of fabric to make the pleated skirt and reams of material to make the numerous petticoats. This lady was waiting for a lift on the road, and Maura stopped, and while the lady was coming to their vehicle, I took a video of her. When we dropped her off in the town, she was very chatty, and we enjoyed a conversation with her.
There's many shops here.
Oh really? I just don't know.
Do they wear it at home? Maura?
Do you wear this at home as well?
At home, anywhere.
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 Is it not very hot?
It's not hot.
You get used to it.
How,
Maybe I'm too hot already.
how many dresses do you have?
There's so many.
Not so many.
There's so many.
Yeah. And your hat? The hat?
You make that too.
Yeah, we make it even 5 hard. You put it down. When you want to go, you take it.
Beautiful. A very good way to see and understand the Delta is to take a flight over it. And of course, before you leave, you have the mandatory photograph. Then it's aboard the aircraft and taxi out and turn onto the runway of 08 for takeoff. Before long, a short run and then take off past the new control tower being built, and then over the suburbs of Mon. As you fly over the delta, you can see how flat the countryside is, and also how the water, when the floods come, flow through all the rivulets and form little islands. As we're flying along, there's lots of game down below that we could see with the naked eye, but you can't see it very well on this video. There are elephants, giraffes, hippopotamus, and deer, but unfortunately, because of the way we're traveling here, you can't pick them out. More like the shadow of our aircraft as it moved across the ground below us. After the area becomes flooded, the water is not very deep, and it soaks away into the sand, but 95% of it is lost through evaporation. The water that comes down through here doesn't ever get to the sea. We often went walking in the bush, and it was interesting to observe the trees, how when they get old they shed their branches and the trees kind of collapse on themselves. We would follow domestic animal trails through the bush. Here an old tree has collapsed and it's rotted through the inside, and gradually they'll just all rot away and be replaced by new trees. These are the domestic animal trails that we followed through the bush. Although Botswana has a network of good paved roads, to get into the bush one must go on dirt roads, and this can lead to some interesting driving because as you go along, especially in the rainy season, we look for the best route, which sometimes doesn't always work out as planned. This is very much African driving as I remember it from Tanzania, where you never drive in a straight line, you have to follow round potholes and try to get the best route. But this has the advantage of leading to very nice bush camps in the remote areas. This one in particular that we went for a weekend was beautiful, with this large open area in front with a fire pit and nice buildings all around, a lounge, dining room, and all in all very pleasant place. It was on a bluff overlooking a river, and it had this lovely little swimming pool. Each tent was in its own private area, and here we are heading to our tent, number 6. And as we approached, we went through the stockade around the outside, and then in through, and as soon as Maura went in, she headed for the edge of the bluff to look down at the view and the river below. She found that the overlook over the bluff was beautiful, with a great view up the river and down the river. While standing admiring the view, she heard this noise from the river below, and looking down she saw that there were 2 hippopotamus right below her tent.
Oh, that's really good.
After a few moments admiring the view, she decided to check out the tent. She turned and went up a few steps, and here was her tent. A big tent with a zip fastener entrance, and when she went in she found that it was beautifully equipped with a queen-size bed. Alongside was the shower, which was very interesting. Went inside, followed the path around, and when she came out on the other side, she found that she was in the shower area with a shower under the stars. Next morning, a lady brought hot water in a bucket on her head for Maura to shower. Walking back along, Maura came to this public toilet where when she went in, she closed the door behind her and locked it and had privacy, which was very nice. In the evening, 2 antelope came down and started scrapping down by the water. They had quite a fight, and it was hard to pick which one was going to win, but eventually they gave up and just walked away. Later, some elephants came down to the water to drink. The light was getting a little bit poor then, but we could see them quite clearly as they came down, and each had a drink before turning around and eventually walking back into the bush.
And they're gone already.
Yeah.
They're in a hurry, aren't they? So come flying in and flying out.
There's a very nice restaurant that served dinner at the camp, and we met some very interesting people. Another way to experience the area is to go up into the Okavango Delta on a camping trip. The first part of the trip is on a truck, and on the way past some game, and eventually come to a village. There are various villages spread throughout the delta. They build their houses using local materials, and here they have used beer cans as a form of cavity wall to control the temperature. Here a lady rethatches her building. This lady that Maura got chatting to was a qualified poler. She had goats that she kept in a stockade, and we were interested in the goats because they are in overnight but then let out during the day. The goats have interesting eyes. The irises are horizontal. This lady was very proud that she had built her own house using materials. These are termite mounds that they use for the aggregate. We met some happy children, and they were very interested in us, and we were interested in them. These children are very interested in this fellow's tattoos.
You've got the magic pen.
We arrived in the village just as they were letting the goats out for the day. The goats happy to go and look to forage around in the local area. Then we saw this fellow take his cattle out for the day. He's a local cowboy. Then we came to a spot where we were to leave the truck and go on a macuro. These are dugout canoes that ply the waters of the delta. As the trucks left, we set out on a nice peaceful trip through the delta. Each canoe carries two people facing forward and a poler in the back standing upright.
There's a small snake.
Oh yeah.
What type of snake is that?
That is the water snake.
Oh, so it's harmless. But it would eat the eggs of the bird.
Yeah, they try to find the eggs inside.
Yeah.
Here a hippo surfaced close by and snorted at us.
Our polar then was
Winston.
Yeah.
So the name of station You forgot it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
After about 2 hours, we came to this very nice camp area where we each had our tents with bunk beds and en-suite facilities. A nice, comfortable place. At 5 o'clock in the evening, we got together and went out on a walking safari. We had a guide and a small group with a guard behind. The guide was able to point out all sorts of interesting things that he saw. This a giraffe's bone and skin, and a buffalo's skull. And some giraffe trying to get away as we approached. Some more zebra, watch as we pass by. But this one wasn't so lucky, a lion got it during the night. In the distance there's a baboon on a termite mound. A beautiful delta sunset. As the sun set over the delta, we made our way back to the camp for the night. At the camp was this nice dining tent where we had some very good meals, all brought in from the evening. The polers and other staff put on a very entertaining song and dance routine for us around the campfire.
Beautiful Delta, Delta, I shall never forget. Beautiful Delta, beautiful Mikoros, Mikoros, beautiful Mikoros, Mikoros, I shall never forget. Beautiful Mikoros, beautiful tourist.